Now, we all have heard that cliche future war in our planet will be caused by water. Well, that kind of seems manifesting itself in the eastern part of our continent in East Africa, as President Museveni few days ago has warned Kenya that he wants access to the sea, meaning to the Indian Ocean. So he threatened basically future war with Kenya over Indian Ocean. Now, Kenyans have responded to that in various ways. Basically, one of them said Museveni must be daydreaming. Well, is he? Is the question. I'm going to go through what he said, kind of phrase by phrase, and then we'll share the reaction from Kenyans. And then I will give you my view by bringing a background to this context. Okay, let me give you this background first of all. Now, the statement that future wars will be caused by access to the sea is supported by experts who cite climate change and increasing water scarcity as key drivers of conflict, like factors like melting of polar ice caps, opening new shipping lanes, and resource-rich areas, competition over fisheries, and the potential for landlocked nations to seek sea access for economic survival all point to the sea becoming a new battlefield for resources and strategic advantage. Landlocked nations seeking sea access, countries without direct access to the sea, are increasingly viewing this as a strategic and economic necessity. The president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, has warned that his nation could face future war if access to the Indian Ocean is blocked. Also, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali, he considers that the sea access is historical and legal, historical and existential question. So that's why I said it's kind of manifesting to in the eastern part of our continent. Well, Ethiopia's case is a kind of different. For now, we are going to focus on Uganda versus Kenya. Let me share this with you because this article is basically the departure point for me, what made all these thoughts that I am going to share with you are, inspired by. So I will also later, because the very reason for this, to make this video is this can be only solved for all problems that, pulls their initial trade from colonial rooted, which is a colonial rooted conflict, can only be solved by a Pan-African solution. That is the only way to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna share with you an excerpt of a speech by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, which basically address this and can be a solution. Well, now, what did Yoweri Museveni say? Now, his statement came, first of all, on 7th of November, and then he said what he said is, it is unfair to block landlocked countries from accessing critical route to trade and strategic defense. This is both about economic and political power, okay? And then he also added countries claiming exclusive ownership of the ocean is just madness. That's what he said. Well, it's the same thing also for Ethiopia. okay, let's say Ethiopia. I am an Ethiopian, so I almost said we. Ethiopia wants to get a sea access, both its economy and security point of view, because everybody else, a foreign power, come and settle a foreign military there, while your neighboring country is defenseless there, and even the country that's hosting all those foreign powers. So they kind of have a point now. Museveni said, the past efforts to resolve this issue has basically ended with no results. So the negotiations that has been between Uganda and Kenya were regarding a critical infrastructure that requires direct access to the Indian Ocean. So for the case of Uganda, like the railway and then the oil pipeline, which they are going to start it soon. So, and then also from strategic point of view, I think they want to have also build a naval base there. Well, now what is Kenya's reaction? Okay, let me just read this from Museveni's speech. Okay, it's a quote there. So it says, in Uganda, even if you want to build a navy, how can you build it? We don't have access to the sea. The political organization in Africa is so irrational. Well, from the, okay, I mean, I want to quickly say, from all the people now, Museveni is complaining about the African Union. Okay, let me continue. Some of the countries have no access to the sea, not only for economic purposes, but also for defense purposes. You are stuck. How do I export my products? That's why we have had endless discussions with Kenya. This one stops, another comes. The railway and the pipeline we discuss, but that ocean belongs to me because it is my ocean. I am entitled to that ocean. In the future, we are going to have wars. So, quote ended. Now, how Kenyans reacted to Museveni's threats to war, I will read you. Let me see if this is a video of him talking.
I say, you people, why don't you see how to unite? Because Uganda, even if you wanted to build a navy, how can you build it? We don't have access to the sea. Mm-hmm. The political organization in Africa is so irrational. Some of the countries have no access to the sea. For economic purposes, but also for defense purposes, you are stuck. How do I export my products? That's why we have got endless discussion with Kenya, then this one stopped, then another one comes, then the railway, the pipeline, the what, we discuss. But that ocean belongs to me. Because where is my ocean? I'm entitled to that ocean. In the future, we are going to have wars. In the future, we're going to have wars. How can you say that?
So let me stop it there and go to the reaction, okay? Now, this is a Kenyan saying, I was wondering why weapons were supplied to Uganda, but now I understand why. But playing with Kenya is like playing with Israel or USA. Kenya is one of those two in East Africa, okay? Another one says, you are already in your future. Which future are you waiting for, you ancestor? Okay, that's referring to because he's older, above his he's 80 something. I had to go back. Another Kenyan response to this. I had to go back to the Africa map to see how far Uganda is from the ocean before laughing. Another Kenyan says, try other neighbors, not Kenya. We are great men. Another one says, my question is, even if he has access to the ocean, How will he deliver his goods from which country, since Kenya might block the transits? We need friendly match between our NYS and Ugandan military. I'm confused. Is he daydreaming an ocean or a lake? Okay, now all these are the reactions. Now I want to give you my view, okay, my side of the story. How do I view this? It's important to look at that. Uganda and Kenya, they both have a population, each of them above 50 million. Uganda being around 51.4 million, and Kenya 53 million. And then, with regards to their GDP, I think Uganda is 64.2, and Kenya is 136. Yeah, that is their GDP. It will give us a bit of a background on their economy. Now, an increasing question arising from this will be, are coastal nations entitled for exclusive claim of ocean rights? That's really an important question, okay? Now, moving on, what trade route Uganda use so far? It's using 97% of its import and export happens through the Mombasa port, which is located in Kenya. Now, only a few percent, that is maybe the remaining 3%, they are also using the Dar es Salaam port as an alternative, which is Port Bell. What is the cost of the rent? Also, I tried to do a bit of a research. Now, there is no as per se port rent, like for example, Ethiopia is paying to Djibouti, which is around $2.7 billion per year. And it's every time it increases. It used to be not even in billions, but throughout all these 30 years, we have it increased and increased, part of it caused by also the inflation. And now we are paying $2.7 billion to Djibouti. Basically, that's what it needs the government for the whole budget of their yearly, for their annual budget. And, it gives this entitlement for Djibouti anytime to put the price up. So this is why actually it became existential for Ethiopia to seek access to the sea. So the cost, when it comes to Uganda and Kenya, there is no rent but there is each companies of Uganda who are which are using the port in Mombasa, they are paying $145,000 per month, okay? And then this $300 per container cash bond on Ugandan containers. But there are also different incentives given by the Kenyan government, sometimes, waiving the overstay of the containers payment, this and that. Okay, I can't help but laughing reading the comment here by the Juma Boutique. You have two of Africa's biggest sellouts on your thumbnail, where now those two people seems to take their people to war. I mean, it's most unlikely a war will happen, but it's a legit question that is raised, which is access to the sea, because more and more countries are affected by it, and we see it also in the Sahel states, the Alliance of the Sahel states. 3 of them are landlocked, as you know. Now, trade between the two countries itself, Kenya exports to Uganda around $896 million, and then Uganda's import or export to Kenya is $439 million. Now, there are in total about 16 countries in Africa which are landlocked. In the world, totally, it's 44. Now, in Africa, in East Africa alone, we have Ethiopia, Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, South Sudan, if we take the greater Horn of Africa states, and then Ethiopia takes. Ethiopia is, by the way, even from the 44 countries in the world, it is which has the largest population, around 130 million population. Okay, so that's why again it's existential for Ethiopia. Now, the rest in West Africa, you have Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, the Sahel states themselves. Those are the ones which are landlocked. In Central Africa, you have Central Africa Republic itself and Chad. In Southern Africa, you have Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Eswatini, Zambia, and Malawi. Almost all of them, actually, except South Africa and Namibia, right? That's interesting. That I find it really, really interesting. I wonder which port they are using, all these countries. Now, Ethiopia's, I will bring Ethiopia more and more into this because it's a kind of similar in a way, the path that these two countries are passing. But Ethiopia's case is different because, Ethiopia lost its access to the sea like 33 years ago when Eritrea got its independence. Now, which part of Uganda, what is the main cause for Uganda to become a landlocked country? Was it like, as far as history tells us, was it like this all the time? No, actually, there are reasons for Uganda how it became a landlocked country far from the Indian Ocean. So according to that, it's not a natural for Uganda to be landlocked. It's not a natural geopolitical feature, even though it has large lakes like Lake Victoria. So now this has brought, of course, a negative political impact. Let's look at, I am going to share these slides I tried to put up for you so that it can help us, to understand. So here is the thing. Let me just put it here. I don't know if I can zoom this. Can I? Maybe, yeah. What is this? Okay, it's not something what I wanted. Okay, let's put it as it is. As you can see, this is the map. This is actually now the current map. This is the old map. You can see this Kisumu, Entebbe, Kisumu. This is the eastern Uganda part. Now, this part is gone to Kenya. Okay, that is transferred in the 1902. Around that time, it's transferred to Kenya, Kisumu, and other towns here, the eastern part of the country. And how did that happen? Okay, how Uganda become a landlocked country? The old map of East Africa, when Kisumu and Kakamega was part of Uganda. So this was actually as a result of the railway construction in 1902, decisions to transfer the eastern section of the Uganda Protectorate to the Kenya colony, then called the East Africa Protectorate, to keep the entire line under one local colonial administration. So that's why we had Kenya Uganda Railway and not Kenya Railway. Uganda became a British protectorate in 1884 during the Scramble for Africa and was later divided into 6 provinces. The Eastern Province, part of which was annexed and transferred to Kenya, which is these places are Eldoret, Naivasha, Masai, and Kisumu, and others. Okay. Now, going on, all this region in 1895, they were in Uganda: Migori, Homa Bay, Kisumu, Siaya, Kakamega, Busia, Bungoma, West Pokot, Marquette, Nakuru, Baringo, Lake, and Lake Turkana. These were, which used to be known as also Lake Rudolph. All these were part of Uganda, but then both countries were actually, they were at, the colonial power was Britain. But they just decided it between themselves. And during the 1884 in the Scramble of Africa, as they say, to administer, because the rail was the main source of their business, to export raw materials. So they said, we will put it where it starts for administration purpose. So they just annexed that whole eastern part of Uganda to Kenya. In July, on July 10, 1901, submission about Uganda to the new Foreign Secretary for the closer union between the two protectorates was made. On August 10, same year, Foreign Office agreed to have a territory of Uganda transferred to the East African protectorate. And then November again later that year, Sir Charles Elliot supported the transfer of Uganda land, but did not totally rule out the future federation of the territory. And then March 1905, after 4 years, Hill's scheme of transferring Uganda's Eastern Province territory to the Eastern African Protectorate was adopted. So you can see all this happened because of the colonial power, because of colonialism. In that, the infamous Scramble for Africa, when they sit in Berlin without any African presence, but scrambling Africa amongst themselves, sharing Africa amongst themselves. So that's what it did, not only to Uganda and Kenya, but also to many African countries, dividing even the same people, same tribes have been divided into two, one going to another country, the other one the same. There is many cases in the continent like that. And that's why you see later on a war would arise, not only because of access to the sea, because these people were together. So they want to unite, and then the central government will oppose it, and then something else, a chaos or conflict or war potentially is created. That's how it all goes back to colonialism, and this is the root cause of many problems in Africa. So Yoweri Museveni, in his address, he actually ignored the root cause of the problem, and he's just threatening war, where he didn't say, but there will be future war. It's better, to ask how these colonial rooted conflicts or problems can be solved in the continent, because if one can set up a directive or like a guideline that can benefit both sides of the nation, then that can pretty much be can be adopted by the rest of member states, because most of them have this problem. Well, now, so the solution is for this colonial rooted conflict, it's a Pan-African solution. We need to look at things from the African perspective. Now, let me go and see to finish the other part of the slide. Look, Britain made Uganda landlocked by drawing the administrative borders for its own colonial interests, specifically to keep the entire railway which connected Lake Victoria to the port of Mombasa in Kenya under a single colonial administration. The railway was crucial for economic exploitation and transport. And in 1902, the British transferred a portion of Uganda to the later Kenya to include the railway line within its boundaries, thereby creating a landlocked Uganda. Now, will the transferred towns have access to the sea? According to the AI, so neither Kisumu nor Naivasha has direct, which these are towns transferred to Kenya, have direct access to the Indian Ocean. They are both located inland from the coast. Kenya has a coastline on the Indian Ocean, but Kisumu is situated in western Kenya on the shores of Lake Victoria. You see, that's why. And Naivasha is the central Rift Valley. So the pre-colonial, before European colonization, the area that's now Uganda was relatively isolated from the outside world, with its own internal trade and rivalries between kingdoms like Buganda and Bunyoro. Well, these are, some backgrounds. Now we go to talk about what is this Pan-African solution for this kind of problem. Because, the thing is that what I think is it wasn't really up to Kenya to make Uganda landlocked, or neither the government, which at that time was just the colonial power, was the government, and then not also the Kenyan people. Nobody was involved. They just make a decision, the European leaders during that scramble for Africa. Now, I want to share with you a speech from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Oh, are you saying Russia was invited in that meeting of 1884 Berlin Conference, and they said no? Because I think, I don't know, some words are missing in your comment. But yeah, let's do this. So here it is. This is his speech in 1963, when the Organization of African Unity was established. He asks, what are we looking for in Africa? Are we looking for charters conceived in the light of the United Nations example, a type of United Nations organization whose decisions are framed on the basis of resolutions that, in our experience, have sometimes been ignored by member states, are formed and pressures development in accordance with the interest of the groups concerned? Or is it intended that Africa should be turned into a loose organization of states on the model of the Organization of American States, in which the weaker states within it can be at the mercy of the stronger or more powerful ones politically or economically, and all at the mercy of some powerful outside nation or group of nations? Is this the kind of association we want for ourselves in the United Africa we all speak of with such feeling and emotion? We all want a united Africa, united not only in our concept of what unity connotes, but united in our common desire to move forward together in dealing with all the problems that can best be solved only on a continental basis. We meet here today not as Ghanaians, Guineans, Egyptians, Algerians, Moroccans, Malians, Liberians, Congolese, or Nigerians, but as Africans. Africans united in our resolve to remain here until we have agreed on the basic principles of a new until we have agreed on the basic principles of a new compact of unity among ourselves, which guarantees for us and our future a new arrangement of continental government. If we succeed in establishing a new set of principles as the basis of a new charter for the establishment of a continental unity of Africa and the creation of social political progress for our people, then, in my view, this conference should mark the end of our various groupings and regional blocs. But if we fail and let this grand and historic opportunity slip by, then we shall give way to greater dissension and division among us, for which the people of Africa will never forgive us. And the popular and progressive forces and movements within Africa will condemn us, just like what Captain Ibrahim Traore is condemning them, okay? That's a progressive leader there. I am sure, therefore, that we shall not fail them. To this end, I propose for your consideration the following. As a first step, a declaration of principles uniting and binding us together, and to which we must all faithfully and loyally adhere, and laying the foundation of unity should be set down. As a second urgent step for the realization of the unification of Africa, an All-Africa Committee of Foreign Ministers should be set up now. The committee should establish, on behalf of the heads of our governments, a permanent body of officials and experts to work out a machinery for the Union Government of Africa. Now, let me go back to this part. Look how that first part will, in a united way, give solution for most of our problems. The Committee of Foreign Ministers, officials, and experts should be empowered to establish, number one, a commission to frame a constitution for union government of African states. Number two, a commission to work out a continent-wide plan for a unified or common economic and industrial program for Africa. This should include proposals for setting up a common market for Africa, an African currency, an African monetary zone, an African central bank, a continental communication system, a commission to draw up details for a common foreign policy and diplomacy, a commission to produce plans for a common system of defense, a commission to make proposals for a common African citizenship. Then there you go. without common setting up this kind of constitution and unified or common economic and industrial program for Africa, which includes also a common market, currency, monetary zone, also a defense. All this would have solved the problem. And then when countries ask access to the sea, because it in that constitution says and supports the development program of member states or countries, then they will be automatically forced to implement that. This kind of Pan-African solution would have been our solution to, or a principle or a directive to be guided by, then thereby avoiding any war whatsoever. Okay. That's where I would like to end it. And yeah, let us know in the comment section, what do you think of this thing? Russia refused to take part in the partition of Africa. So Russia also supported the US in its fight against the Brits. All right, that's a good point. Thank you, Dejuma. Well, yeah, it's interesting. Next time I will also talk about Ethiopia's quest access to the sea, because that's a whole lot of a different thing. And others, like the Sahel states, you have seen, because that's why we say it's a basic infrastructure, like Uganda said, the railway and the pipeline. It's the same oil pipeline that was built from Niger to Benin, for the crude oil to be sent to China. Then Benin now, because is sleeping with France or in bed with France and plotting against the Sahel states, Benin said no. After all that money has been invested, after it has given a guarantee that it will give its port for use, of course, Niger is paying. It's not for free. Then Benin says no. Now Niger, taking a loan, building that pipeline around 2,000 something kilometer. That's it. They cannot do anything. They have to close their borders because their security is endangered. Okay, these are really intertwined things. Our development ambitions are an intertwined things. We cannot do things separately. So now Niger has to look for something, and it has to build another pipeline. It's really, really sad how our own neighboring countries are sabotaging, because there is no governing body, there is no political unity, or that, what Kwame Nkrumah asked for the member states. At that time, it did not happen. And all these little individual countries wanted to exercise their power right after they got their independence from the colonial power, so-called independence, by the way. And they wanted to exercise that power and created their political dynasty there. Now they don't want to leave power, including Museveni itself, by the way, in which his son is probing up to become the next president. Well, it's just crazy how many things, all this, the continental free trade area, this and that, all this, it was not necessary had we been able to form that political unity at that time. It would have saved us all these years, Now nobody wants, they don't even respect the African Union, okay? He himself, the Museveni, in his speech started how the African Union has become irrational. He didn't say it by the name, but the biggest political entity, this and that, he gave it a name anyway. He's referring to the African Union. Well, from all the people, Museveni speaking against the African Union, that's laughable. But that's where our redemption is, okay? creating one Africa, a political unity, that governs us all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anton Dalima. Africa was seen as a prize to victors of World War II. Yeah, lament the past, take your future. Exactly. Sad. I will see you on the next one. What can I say? Have a good evening. Have a good weekend for the rest of the weekend. And it's a bye-bye from me. Ciao.